6. We've done it. We've made it through 6 episodes. Gonna do some quick little plugs at the beginning. We have a Patreon account. It's free-minds. It takes a little bit of work to put all these episodes together, to put the blog together. We do it in our own free time. If you get value out of it and you want to give value back, even just $1, that's something. So on Patreon, we're free-minds if you want to look us up. As far as my stuff, my book is with my publisher right now. It's going to be coming out in about a month, roughly. It's called Evergreens. We are not the mask we wear. We are the light that shines through. I'm currently writing my second book right now. It's called Evergreen, The Unraveling of Love. The first book's kind of about the past and waking up. The second book's kind of about the present moment and living in the now and finding yourself in the now. That's really it as far as plugs go. We got 2 awesome people on this episode. We're going to split it up into 2 episodes. The first episode we have
Moshe Jacobson.
Here with us, founder of Alive in the Wild, right?
That's right, and PsyAtlanta as well.
Cool beans.
Thanks for having me, Trey.
And we also have
Marissa Skulke.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, hi, I'm intuitive healer, Reiki master, certified hypnotherapist, commercial property insurance broker,
Yeah.
Wow.
and rapper and singer-songwriter. So
we're going to get to our
Renaissance
rapping
woman.
skills. Don't worry.
So you've promised.
My
so.
mission is empowering other people.
Yeah, that's the mission here, too.
Yes.
And then John's here with us.
As always, John is back.
Per
Not always.
usual.
I was not here last time.
He was
but
on vacay.
It's great to be back.
Sometimes we got to take a little vacation. I just got back from Belize.
How was it?
It was hot and lots of mosquitoes, but a lot of self-discovery, too.
You look fresh. You look relaxed.
Yeah, I probably look tan, too.
Yes, you do.
Okie pokey. We always try to start with a video to kind of set the tone of the episode. And then we'll just kind of jump in. I'll talk for a little bit, but then we'll just kind of jump into your story wherever you want to jump.
All right.
So let's pull this up. And here we go.
To be detached from the world, in the sense that Buddhists and Taoists and Hindus will often talk about detachment, does not mean to be non-participative. You can have a sexual life very rich and very full, and yet all the time be detached. By that I don't mean that you just go through it mechanically and have your thoughts elsewhere. I mean a complete participation, but still detached. And the difference of the 2 attitudes is this. On the one hand, there is a way of being so anxious about physical pleasure, so afraid that you won't make it, that you grab it too hard, that you just have to have that thing. And if you do that, you destroy it completely. And therefore, after every attempt to get it, you feel disappointed. You feel empty, you feel something was lost. And therefore you want it again. You have to keep repeating, because you never really got there. And it's this that is the hang-up. This is what is meant by attachment to this world, in an evil sense. But on the other hand, pleasure in its fullness cannot be experienced when one is grasping it. I knew a little girl to whom someone gave a bunny rabbit. She was so delighted with the bunny rabbit and so afraid of losing it that taking it home in the car, she squeezed it to death with love. And lots of parents do that to their children, and lots of spouses do it to each other. They hold on too hard, and so take the life out of this transient, beautifully fragile thing that life is. To have it, to have life, and to have its pleasure, you must at the same time let go of it. And then you can feel perfectly free to have that pleasure in the most gutsy, rollicking, earthy, lip-licking way. One's whole being taken over by a kind of undulative, convulsive ripple, which is like the very pulse of life itself. This can happen only if you let go.
What do you mean happiness? What exactly do you mean by happiness? If you translate a particular sensation as happiness, you call it happiness, a particular sensation that is there. You separate yourself and use that knowledge about the happiness that is put in there and translate that and tell yourself that you are happy. You understand? All sensations are very short-lived. They can't last forever. So the moment you separate yourself from a particular sensation and tell yourself that you are happy, the demand to keep that going longer than its duration of life is inevitable. So what all you are doing to stretch that and keep that going on and on has turned that into the opposite unhappiness. You are stuck with unhappiness. Same is the case with the pleasure. You want to be in that state of pleasure all the time. It is just not possible. So you are turning pleasure into pain. You know, we are not ready to accept it. And all those religious jokers tell us, we have some ways, we teach you the techniques of meditation, yoga, this, that and the other, and you will be in a permanent bliss. The demand for permanence in every area of our existence is the cause of human misery. There is no such thing as permanence at all.
Well, I keep saying, de-emphasize anxiety, reassure people. You meet people who say, you know, I'm really scared. I'm scared about my job. I'm scared about my relay. I'm scared, scared, scared. And says, don't worry. You don't know enough to worry. That's God's truth. Who do you think you are that you should worry, for crying out loud? I mean, it's a total waste of time. It presupposes such a knowledge of the situation that it is in fact a form of hubris. You know, no, what you do is just pay your bills and, you know, pack heat if you need to, and don't worry. That's all. Yes. Worry is praying to the devil. That's great. Worry is betting against yourself. You know, Wi-Po Yang, a great Chinese Taoist who wrote many, many commentaries on the I Ching, he was asked at the end of his life what was his conclusion of a life of studying the I Ching. And he said, worry is preposterous.
Wow.
So
That was an amazing video.
yeah, it
Thank you for sharing that.
it gets me every time I watch it.
Alan Watts, set to music. Terence McKenna. I didn't catch who the middle guy was.
I can't pronounce his name, and
Yeah.
I'm scared I'm going to butcher it if I try, but we'll put it in the commentary.
I got chills though. That was great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wrote a book, you know, and it doesn't really matter that I wrote a book and that I spilled out all this stuff, because the patterns are still there, and I still get caught up in like trying to create this new identity that I want to be attached to, and like I want people to like my Instagram feed, I want people to like my podcast, I want people to like my book, but really like, and I'm just going to talk for a second, but like really what it is like the book, I wrote it for me, because like the book freed me in a way. It was cathartic. I had all this stuff in me, and I had to express it in a way that was authentic, and it wasn't for the world. It was for me. And a lot of people, I think, and we've talked about this a lot of people, I think, live for the external. They live for people validating them as opposed to validating themselves through what is actually in their heart and what actually inspires them, what actually makes them want to get out of bed. And because like, this is what I want to do. You know, I want to be talking about this stuff. I want to be writing these books, and I don't want to be attached to if people receive it or don't receive it. That's not my truth. My truth is just expressing myself without a filter.
It's totally human, though. It's totally natural to want people to accept your work because we need to be validated by. Everybody has a need to be validated by somebody other than oneself. It's natural.
So, and what I'm trying to say is, you find the people that will hear you and that resonate with you. The whole world doesn't need to accept whatever message you're putting out there, but really this message is just everybody has something in them that they want to live, and don't worry about if it's going to happen or not, because like Terence McKenna said, you're betting against yourself. Worrying is betting against yourself. If you have faith in yourself, and this is really what spirituality is to me, is I have an inner guidance system. It knows how to get where I want to go, and as long as I'm quiet in my mind and I listen to that guidance, then I can get there. As long as I'm not worrying about how it comes to pass.
This has totally been my journey over the last couple of years, particularly.
Mine too. That's why we rested.
The last half year, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I have you on here, because I just want people to hear that it is possible to follow your heart and like find what makes you tick in this life, because I like what I'm doing now, and I used to be really depressed, and now I'm not, because I'm living as I am, as opposed to living as I perceived the world wanted me to be, or whatever it is, through cultural norms and my family, or whatever it is. Yeah. I just try to be me now, and I get caught up in not being me sometimes, because I'm human and it just happens. But you're here today, and I want to talk about what your journey's been like, because you said this has kind of been your journey. So, and you can start wherever you want. I don't know. My world kind of fell apart at one point, and that's when things started to change. But you start wherever you think is appropriate for you.
Well, we were just talking this morning, Marissa and I, about how I've never had one of these turning points in my life, like
dark
a lot of dark night of the soul kind of thing. It's been kind of a gradual thing for me, and I know that I grew up being exactly who my parents wanted me to be. Yeah. I was the model child. I didn't get great grades in school, but I still did a good job, good enough for them to really approve of me and like who I was, and I was a good Jew. And we were raised Jewish, and I kept kosher. And at one point in my life, I was like, okay, I'm ready to not do this anymore. And I had my first sandwich with bacon on it, and that was divine.
So when was this?
That was actually, I was pretty old when that happened. That was maybe around my early 20s. Okay. And that was also around the time that I started smoking cannabis and
experimenting.
And I just started finding my own way through life. Judaism had served me well throughout my childhood, and I needed something else to answer kind of the more existential questions that I had, because I felt that my upbringing didn't really give me that. So I found Taoism and then Buddhism, and I read all about that stuff. And then I found a whole bunch of other areas of study and started learning this and that and kind of defining my own way. But it's always the hardest thing for me has been being myself around my family. And they say, I've heard it said that once you overcome your attachments regarding your family, then you've really nailed it. You can't really achieve enlightenment until you've broken those bonds with your family. Not in the sense that you let them go, but that you can totally be yourself.
You showed them who you are, and they'll eventually get used to it.
Exactly.
And through this whole process, especially in the beginning, were you worried at all that what your family was thinking, or what other people were thinking?
Yeah, like the first time I didn't go to synagogue on Yom Kippur. That was a big deal. That's like one of the two biggest holidays in the Jewish calendar. And I didn't go to synagogue that day, and my parents were aghast. They were so disappointed, and they were so disappointed when they found out I was smoking weed. And then later on, when I started experimenting with psychedelics, I started a meetup group for it, and my mom called it my little druggie club. and I received very little support, really no support from my family in that regard, and that was disappointing to me, because I wanted to be able to feel supported by my family and be authentic.
Is that your inner child in you that you it's I want you to accept me. Like, I want you to approve of this, because there's
Yeah.
this innate need to get approval from our parents.
Mm-hmm.
And on my trip to Belize, I was with my parents for 9 days, and they saw the new me, and they actually finally accepted me because of some traumatic stuff that happened. But that's for another episode. But I will say, once I got the approval, I was like, oh, okay, I have this now. Nothing's really changed.
Yeah.
You know, I have their approval, but everything's still really the same. I'm still living my life as I'm going to live it, and getting their approval. It's nice and it helps.
How does it help though?
The kid in me kind of shut up a little bit. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not going to fight you anymore on this because your parents accept me now. And for a second, like,
Yeah.
when I came back, I was in total shock almost, because my parents, like, they were having me give them tarot readings and stuff. And they were like, do this for us. And it was weird. And I was like, wow, because they believe in angels, and I didn't really know they did. And they're like, yeah, we want to know stuff. Tell us. Like, they're like, you have a divine gift. Tell us stuff.
Yeah.
But it took a really traumatic event and some other stuff on the third day of the trip to happen, with some alcohol and my siblings, and be showing my parents that I had grown a lot because I was taking care of them. And they were just like, oh, we thought you were crazy, but you seem to, like, be centered and okay. And maybe it takes a 9-day vacation with your family. But
Yeah, which I just had, actually.
oh, I did too.
Wow.
Weird how that happens.
Yeah, and those, you know, we do this every year. My family goes on a beach vacation for a week, and we like to call it a vacation, but I for me, it's work. Exactly what I was going to say. And it's tremendous work, and a lot of things come out that have been waiting all year to come out, and it's profound. A lot of the time we discover patterns in the way that we're behaving with each other that are unhealthy, and we call them out, and we start healing.
That's so interesting that we both just did this. Because when I went on my vacation, I was like, this is an initiation of sorts for me. Like, I went to Belize, so it's on neutral territory, but, like, I had to be not. I was very guarded at first, you know. I was like, no, I don't want you to, you know, judge me or whatever. Like, I'm fine. And then, like, later on, I opened up, but I don't know how it was for you.
I still feel pretty repressed by my family.
Yeah.
I feel that their way of living is a much more traditional style than mine, and I still don't feel that I can really truly be myself around my family.
Right.
And that's my journey. That's not their fault. That's you know, that's something I need to do myself. I need to figure that out. So that's something that I'm working on. And in terms of being authentic in other areas of my life, I feel like I've been a community leader because of these communities that I've started. PsyAtlanta, the psychedelic meetup in Atlanta, and the Alive in the Wild, which is my nature meetup, outdoors stuff. And I feel like I've kind of put myself into this leadership position where I need to be the role model for everybody. And so that's kind of made me feel a little bit like I have to be like this stoic person all the time. And yeah. And then if I try to do that too much, I give myself migraines, and it
I can relate.
Yeah. And so I'm just working also on this, just allowing myself to be natural, spontaneous, imperfect.
Because that's what we are.
Yeah.
And then
what better way to set an example than being one's authentic, imperfect self.
Right. And that's the point of this podcast, is to drop the bullshit. Like, stop pretending like we're perfect, because we're not, you know. We're human. And it's fine. So you said you grew up very devout Judaism, and then you started exploring all these other areas. Which area attracted you the most at first?
I think that one of my greatest expansions happened when I started studying shamanism. I got into shamanism after I got into psychedelics, and after which I also started listening to Terence McKenna.
Explain briefly what shamanism is? Just
yes, please.
Shamanism is a traditional spiritual practice from the Amazon area. People there have practiced it for thousands of years, and it involves techniques such as trance drumming and exploring alternate states of consciousness.
It's kind of a guide, though, right? You're a guide for others, or
a shaman is a spiritual guide.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, shamanism was the way that I learned about, for example, ayahuasca, which is a plant medicine from the Amazon, which has psychedelic properties and is very, very powerful.
Yep, it knocked me out.
Yeah, yeah, it will do that. And so where was I going with that?
This was the area where you started discovering yourself, or the
Yeah,
area you
yeah.
were attracted to?
So I started after I discovered psychedelics. I started listening to Terence McKenna, and he talked about plant medicine, ayahuasca, and shamanism. And I said, I want to study shamanism. I want to see what this is all about.
And just again for psychedelics, like, and you can add on to what I'm about to say. I think it's good to do it because it just removes your total person. You're out of the way, and you can see things more clearly.
Right. Yeah. Psychedelics are a tool. In the most basic sense, they're a tool for removing your ego and allowing you to look into your life from a new perspective.
You see the truth, right?
That's not clouded by your ego. Actually, somebody really gave me a great analogy of how psychedelics are. And that is, imagine you're climbing a mountain, you're trying to get to the top, and it's all covered in clouds at the top. You can't see where you're going, but this is your journey. You're trying to get to the top without knowing where you're going. Psychedelics, when you are on a psychedelic journey or psychedelic trip, those clouds are gone. You can see the top of the mountain. You know exactly where you're going, but you're not there yet, but you know where you're going. And when you finish, the clouds are back, but now you have your trajectory. You know where you're going. And so
it unmuddies the water.
Yeah. And so psychedelics have been an incredibly important part of my life. But back to shamanism, because we were talking about how that transformed my life. The study of shamanism was the first thing really to teach me about trusting my intuition, which is for me a very, very powerful thing, because I grew up being very intellectual and trusting science and facts and data. Right. When I learned that there's a shortcut to making decisions, and that's called the intuition, and that it's actually usually way more accurate than any sort of data analysis.
It's relevant to you.
Yeah. Then I started turning over a brand new leaf in my life where I trusted myself and I trusted what was coming up. And it became where I just felt so much better about the way that I was living, because I knew that if I just trusted myself, and this is what you were talking about too just earlier, trusting. And I don't usually say that I'm trusting myself. I just say that I'm trusting
the universe,
the divine order.
Yeah.
And if I know that everything's going to work the best way it possibly can, I just do my little action in life that sets things in motion to allow those things to come into my life. And I know that it's going to work out the way it needs to. I don't need to fight to make something specific happen because my ego wants it. I just need to do my basic work in life and let things happen the way they need to happen. And
you'll learn that way.
Yeah.
Have you, when you're using your intuition, have you experienced less worry by following your intuition?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love the way that Terence McKenna said that worry is a type of hubris, because if I'm worrying about how things are going to turn out, it's saying that I actually am controlling how things are going to turn out, which is totally false.
Yeah.
All I need to do is trust that it's going to work out, and it
usually does.
And it usually does.
Yeah.
The stronger my trust, the more it's going to work out. It's all about probabilities.
Yeah.
The stronger your trust, the higher the probability that it's going to work out. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, and then coincidences and synchronicities just start to happen.
All the time.
All the time.
Even when I laughed when I looked at the video recording, because it was like 11:11, I was like, of course.
Yeah, it was funny because I recently sent out my first Alive in the Wild newsletter, and after I sent it, I was reading it through, and I saw the timestamp on it was 11:11. I'm like, oh my god, this is perfect.
I see it all the time now. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, we have all sorts of strange synchronicities that happen between me and Marissa. The other day, I was just humming a song in the morning. What was it called? The the one that I sent you, the YouTube video that you sent me actually.
Oh, yes, yes. Don't give up, you got the music in you.
Yeah.
You got a reason to live. Yeah.
Whatever
And
that
you
song
only get what
is.
you give.
Yeah.
You
get what
only
you
get
give,
what you give.
I love that song.
So I was just humming the song in the morning, and she just sends me a random text message in the morning. It's like the first text message of the morning, and she sends me this video. And
that song.
I was like, what the fuck?
And it's like, eventually you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
But it's always what the fuck at first, because
Right.
it just has to be.
Yeah, and then you start not being surprised by them anymore, but it's still
Fun.
equally fun and equally gratitude inducing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just confirmation. It's like I take it as mile markers. It's like there's a mile marker. You're on the right path. Keep going. Like that's the way I like to think of it.
I ask for clear signs from the universe.
Yeah.
And looking for clear signs of support.
Mm-hmm.
And I always ask for, like, I say, universe, tell me, show me clear signs, letting me know I'm on, like, the highest dimension of consciousness that I could possibly be on.
Yeah, and then it'll start showing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It just works out.
Yeah, butterflies too.
So back to your story.
Yeah.
You're learning about this shamanism. You're learning about this intuition. What were some of the first things you started to notice that your intuition was bringing to you, or bringing to your attention, or like decisions that you're using your intuition for, if you can remember?
Even things as simple as looking at the menu and deciding what to order.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah.
Or going to the grocery store, I would let my feet take me to the aisle I needed to be at, and then they would stop, and I'd be at the right aisle.
Right. Yeah. What other things?
GPS. I don't know what else. What
Yeah,
else?
like I started just walking in random directions when I just I didn't know where I was going. I would just start walking and just trusting my intuition and seeing where it brought me, and things like that, where I just leave it up to the universe to decide what was going to happen, and it would always provide a good adventure. And that was especially powerful on psychedelics.
Yeah.
During a psychedelic trip, trusting my intuition it's so obviously more powerful even. And that's the kind of thing that it's great to be able to bring that back into your everyday life and have that same level of trust for your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I like psychedelics because they show me what's possible in my life, rather than liking them for themselves, for the experience itself.
Right.
Yes, the experience itself is usually great or interesting, sometimes hard.
Yeah.
But for me, the most important thing is being able to use what I learned there and take it back into my default mode life.
Can you get like the?
Am I too far from
You're
the mic?
good now. You're
okay,
good now.
Great.
Just like always, I don't know. It has trouble when you're not like right in front of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, psychedelics aren't meant to be done all the time.
No.
It's not something you go and.
Yeah, usually once a month for me.
Even for me, it's just like once a year. But like,
And in what form do you take them?
I've used LSD,
Okay.
mushrooms, ayahuasca only a couple times. But on my own, it's usually LSD and mushrooms.
shrooms are good.
Yeah, mushrooms are both of those are my choice, but mushrooms I think in general are more teaching.
Yeah, I go into it with an intention of something I want to learn, and I usually get it. Sometimes it's harder than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
But the last time I did it was actually about a month ago. And somehow Neil deGrasse Tyson and the Cosmos came on the TV later on. We're winding down, and he was showing like the calendar year and like the entire universe, the history of the universe condensed into a calendar year. And he's like, we've only been here 6 seconds. And that's when I was like, okay, I don't know anything. Like, it's ridiculous for me to think I know anything, because it's ridiculous. I can pretend I know stuff, but I don't really know anything from this perspective.
Well, the only thing that we know is what we experience firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, and we can't even communicate that to anybody else. We can only know what we have experienced firsthand, and you can only know what you have experienced firsthand. And that's why I believe that there's no objective truth. There's only subjective truth, and there's only subjective realities. I can make my reality exactly what I want my reality to be by looking for the things I want to look for, by affirming the things I want to affirm from my reality, And I don't have to believe what everybody else is telling me. I don't have to believe that this food or that food is bad for me. I don't have to believe that getting a sunburn is going to cause cancer. I don't have to believe that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be part of my reality, you know?
And even like they've even done studies that show like whatever you believe is usually true for your body, you know. If you take a sugar pill and say this cures cancer, not that it will, but like, you know, that's kind of the concept.
Yeah. But on the other side of that coin is, in order for us to really create the reality that we want, we have to be very strong in our minds to create the reality that we want.
Focused.
Yeah, it's a matter of willing our reality into existence by focused intention. And if we don't have that focused intention, we are subject to the masses' beliefs. They do then infiltrate our own reality. And so that's why things that a lot of people believe are true for a lot of people. It's because a lot of people believe them and they don't know how not to believe them. They don't know that they can change their reality by not believing them. And even if they do know that they can change their reality, they're not strong enough minded to create that alternate reality for themselves. And I'm not saying I am either. It's a journey for everybody. You know, that you have to keep practicing.
What was one of, I don't know if you can speak to any of these, but like what was one of the first thought patterns that you really battled with? You were like, you know, mine was always like, I'm not worthy of love, kind of, for me, but it's always different for everybody else.
I think the first thing that I started using that technique for was actually my protection in my car on the road.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of funny, but that's where I started first implementing that belief system, getting in my car and saying, I am protected. I am not going to be pulled over. I'm going to be safe. I'm not going to get in any accidents or anything like that.
You get to your destination.
I'm going to get to my destination on time, unharmed, efficiently. And it just made me feel so safe on the road. And so that's what I do all the time now. And I feel protected.
Yeah. I like just knowing I'm going to get where I'm just like, I've gotten there, you know.
Yeah.
It's knowing that it's already happened, I think, is part of it.
Right. Or seeing it already happen.
Yeah, in your mind. I don't know, where does this put us in to shamanism, intuition?
Right. And so, you know, I worked with psychedelics for several years and started PsyAtlanta, and I'm still running that. We do an integration circle every month, which is if people have experiences that they want to talk about, they can come to our integration circle and discuss them with other people of like mind, which is rare for a lot of people to have that support network.
Right.
And once I got into the groove with PsyAtlanta, I said, I'm still interested.
Oops.
I said, I'm still interested in helping people heal themselves. And what I want to do is something that marries up all of my passions. And my passions are the outdoors, healing, and community. And so I said, I'm going to start a business around this. And so I started I started Alive in the Wild. And now I do a lot of different types of activities outdoors designed for healing.
Yeah.
And
do you have an example of one?
Yeah.
Well, we do now monthly fresh air, quiet mind outings, which is we just go to somewhere around Atlanta and we do maybe a bike ride or a walk, and we practice different types of meditation during the activity, and we get to quiet our mind while we get fresh air. And we do other types of retreats where we go camping, and we integrate different modalities of spiritual practice, like holotropic or breath work in general, or forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku it's called, or there's a lot of different ones that we practice.
What's forest bathing?
Forest bathing is a type of meditation in the forest where you are invited by the guide to do different types of introspection or quieting of your mind, or things like even talking to a tree, which right now it might sound kind of ludicrous to some people, but
it's not.
But it's very, very powerful. And for 3 hours you're out there in the forest and you're doing different types of activities that connect you with nature, with yourself, your inner guidance. And my friend Robin Hancock of Renewal by Nature, she's done that with us a couple times, and she leads monthly walks, I think,
for grounding and like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think putting ourselves in, you know, when I'm in the basement too long, I notice like I start going a little crazy because I'm not balanced. I'm very uppity in my thoughts, and I have a lot going on, and I'm like trying to rein them in and control them when I could just walk outside and just start breathing, and that would do what I was trying to do. You know, I can't control my thoughts with more thoughts, which is, it gets confusing. But when you go in the wild or in nature, like, don't you think the thoughts just kind of naturally just come down a little bit?
Absolutely. Nature, I love this quote by Lao Tzu. He says, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." And I love that because it actually has helped me when I'm feeling rushed to get someplace. I know now that I don't have to hurry. I know that time is an illusion. I know that I'm going to get to the place that I need to get to exactly when I need to get there. And hurrying is basically a lack of trust in divine timing.
Yeah. Because it's kind of set up for you to succeed. It's set up for you. Yeah, you know, you're driving right now, and you'll get there when you're supposed to get there. You don't have to hurry and, like, you know, try to control the whole thing,
Right.
Which is, I guess, our culture.
Yeah.
I definitely noticed when I was in Belize, like, everything's much slower. Like, and my parents were like, "Well, it's taking too long to get the food," or whatever it is. And I'm just like, no, it's just a slower pace.
That's just a lot of cultures, though, besides us, right?
Yeah.
We're always go, 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 go.
And
So Alive in the Wild kind of springboarded me. Alive in the Wild and PsyAtlanta both kind of springboarded me into something else, which I came to the realization that a lot of people were using psychedelics in a way that was not necessarily the healthiest way. People didn't have access to guides or trip sitters or things like that, where they could use these healing medicines and very powerful healing medicines too. They didn't have any way to use these medicines in the most healing possible way. A lot of people will use them by themselves, in which case they're usually going to be doing a lower dose because most times it takes too much courage to do 5 grams of dried mushrooms in silent darkness, as Terence McKenna calls the heroic dose. Yeah. And so a lot of people don't get to go to that place of profound healing with psychedelics. And the reason that there is no support network around this is because it's illegal to have these materials. And I think that's incredibly unfortunate because they've been lumped in with these other drugs that are very harmful.
Class 1 or what? I forget the rating system.
Yeah, no
like
medical.
The most addictive, like, they're not addictive because, like, you do it and you're like, okay, I'm good for a while. No need to go back to that.
Exactly. And a lot of people, a lot of times people, there is chance of causing harm if you're not knowing what you're doing, and if there's not a legal framework around the use of psychedelics, the correct use of psychedelics, then you are going to get people using them incorrectly.
Right.
When we create a structure for people to use these materials in a way that is supervised, controlled, and legal, then we can evolve as a species. I think that psychedelics are
You're the stoned ape theory, or
they're our ticket to the next level of evolution. Right. And so what I've started doing now is I've begun what's called entheo coaching. And entheo coaching is creating safe, protected, guided experiences for people who are serious about creating radical personal transformation. And so usually it's with mushrooms. And if people are serious about this work, I can supervise, guide, and hold safe space for them so that they don't have to worry about their own physical safety, the basics, the basic taking care of yourself that can distract from the healing process.
You have any Do you have any like profound stories of people finding themselves and like you being that guide, and like how does that feel?
We've had together these experiences.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had those experiences together too.
Yeah.
Y'all can move the mics, by the way.
I've guided Marissa. I've guided various other people, and the transformation is something that happens actually over time. The experience itself is usually something that can't be described for a lot of people. Like one time, a guy said that he became a bird person or something like that, and he started talking to the bird gods or something, and was like running around, flying around the campsite, and because I do these all outdoors, because nature itself is such a powerful healing medicine that to integrate these two medicines together, and that's why I say it came out of PsyAtlanta and Alive in the Wild, it can create profound healing. And so what I do is then I follow up with my clients afterwards, and I speak to them about their integration, and I make sure that they are doing well and that they are having an opportunity to integrate their experience. And that's of course where the integration circles come in too with PsyAtlanta. And so it's something that I have to be careful about because of the legal nature of it. Right. But I believe strongly that this is a very important thing for me to do. It's my calling. And because of that, I have become much more courageous about sharing my work. And I hope that people can see that this is what our society needs. This is what a lot of people need.
I will say for me, I don't think I'd be where I am right now without them. Shrooms specifically. But I mean, I've done ayahuasca and it works, 3 years later. Like I have dreams about snakes, and like I'm talking to the snakes, and like I feel like I'm talking to Mother Ayahuasca.
Wow.
So like you're saying, it doesn't all happen during the ceremony. It's a lengthy process of integration, right?
Yeah, it can last years even. Yeah.
It is important. I do love me some shrooms. I think they're my favorite teachers.
Yeah. Yeah, mushrooms are great.
Did you all want to talk about any particular experience? Yeah, you mentioned something about.
Well, it's transformed our relationship too.
Yeah.
A lot. We've both been able to stand in our power a lot more and connect like deeper than. I mean, he can just put his hand on my stomach and like he can feel, and we could both feel the same amount of intensity of like it's the first time we were dosed together, and we did I think almost 5 grams of mushrooms, and he had told me that he saw a lot of repressed sadness and grief in my laughter, and it was so true, and so as our relationship has developed, the last time we had that experience together, all he had to do was touch me and touch my stomach, and all of the tears just came pouring out, and he'd take his hand off my stomach and it would stop, and then he would put it back on and the tears would have and it was like I also felt like I was releasing that for him too, like he felt like I was channeling it from him and from me and from our ancestors and from our family, and like I thought it would never stop.
Right.
And we did it on the beach, and we ended by we went into the water. It was a really magical, transformational, intense experience.
Water's always healing.
Yeah, and we kind of let it all kind of wash away, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's.
Thanks for sharing that.
It's, you don't really realize a lot of this stuff is in you. At least I didn't until I started venturing into the psychedelic realm. I was like, I'm a little fucked up. Like, I had a lot of stuff that I was holding on to from my childhood, repressed traumas, repressed emotions that I didn't want to deal with. So I'd always push them down in my subconscious. And then I would drink too much alcohol, I'd black out, and then I would do stupid stuff because my inner child would come out. And then I did stand-up comedy for a bit to make fun of that because I didn't know how to deal with it. But the psychedelics really helped. Without them, again, I don't know if I am where I am. I'm not, and I don't really need them anymore because I've kind of not figured it out. But I trust myself now, and I'm writing the books is an emotional release. Some chapters I cry a lot when I write them. It gets intense, but I'm sure you've seen a lot of clients like have ridiculous emotional releases when they're going through these transformations.
Oh, absolutely.
It's amazing how deeply you can connect with each other. Like,
Yeah, you see each other as humans.
It's because the ego keeps us from expressing our emotions a lot of the time, and when the ego is down, is gone, those emotions can just pour out, and we don't block them, and it creates very, very intense, powerful experiences for people.
Mm-hmm. Do you do a lot of quote unquote shadow work, I suppose?
It depends on the person. If that's what they need, then that's what we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really just depends on what the person's needs are at the time.
And what is shadow work?
So it's not rejecting your darkness. It's just like embracing it to some extent. One event from your past will never define you as a person, as long as you understand why it happened and you can take the learning experience from it, and then you can let it go. If you did something really terrible or bad in your past, or whatever it is, it can be a lot of different things or certain thought patterns that you're disgusted with that you would think. Really, it's just sitting with that and starting to understand it. And you can speak a little more to this, and watching it, and why does this exist? There's a reason this exists. So why does it exist? And just trying to get the understanding.
Yeah, a lot of times the shadow side, the dark side of our being is kind of repressed because we don't want it to be part of our lives. And then in that repression, we deny a part of ourselves. We're resisting what is. And if we can call that part forward and put it in front of us and love it, that can create profound healing.
Yeah, there's all these fragmented parts of ourselves.
And this is why people don't feel whole. They're like, they feel empty sometimes, and they're looking for something, but they realize, oh, the thing I'm pushing away, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually, I think, not to get political here, but I think that Trump was America's shadow side manifest.
Iota.
Yeah.
Have you heard that word?
No, tell me.
These Indian tribes, Native Americans, they would have ceremonies when the tribe was getting out of whack, so to speak. If people were acting in ways that aren't most beneficial to the tribe, they have a Hayota, or a special, I'm not sure if it's a shaman, I'm not sure of the technical words for it, but they would basically have a ceremony. He would act out all of the ridiculousness that exists in the tribe and point it out to them. And what Trump's doing to some extent for America is being our Hayota. He's pointing out all of our ridiculousness and how absurd we are. And he's like, here it is. This is the underbelly of America.
Yeah,
Look at it.
Get it out there. Get through this stuff, because once we get that out and get that stuff out of our systems, then we can transform into the next level.
Yeah, I really think Trump's a blessing in a weird way. Because you can't just deny that this stuff exists on the political level and in terms of the personal level. Like, if something exists within you, you have to acknowledge it.
Well, something has to be brought to the surface to be acknowledged, to be healed. Otherwise, you can't heal what you can't see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have, I don't know, some family members, but it's just people that are obviously not happy, and I can see it very clearly. It's obvious. And I can see why, they're rushing to their phones or whatever it is. They want to get away from the present moment, get away from their thoughts to escape. And you got to ask, well, what am I escaping from? What is it? What do you think? Like, why? If you go on, on the New York subway train or whatever, everyone's on their phone. No one's connecting. Everyone is in their own little world. And
escaping our own thoughts.
Yeah.
Escaping whatever's going on in our mind. And I think that a lot of times it's best just to meditate for a couple minutes. I find myself during the day, I've actually had a daily practice of meditation lately, and I want to start that back up. But I have noticed that I do, throughout the day, I will just stop and just sit there for like 30 seconds and just
everyone listening should do this too.
Yeah.
I wish they did. I mean, it was funny. I was just thinking about that when I was traveling this past week, staying in a hotel. Every time I got in the elevator, I just observed people. Every time someone gets in an elevator, they don't have their phone on them. But as soon as you get in there and the door closes, the elevator, 10 second ride down to the bottom floor, but everyone pulls out their phone for that 5 or 10 seconds because they need that.
It's like it's safe. For some reason,
it's safe.
It's safe here. you think no one can see you.
Right.
You don't have to talk to anyone. You just it's
What did people do before cell phones? You know?
talk to each other, right? I think. I mean, if you're in an elevator with
There's gotta be
someone,
other ways that they distracted themselves, though. I mean,
Or just sitting.
yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't this bad though.
it
I
was.
don't
Yeah,
think.
it really
it's gotten
wasn't.
When Eckhart Tolle talks about like the Facebook ego, that is just, we used to have like an egoic version of ourselves that we would attach ourselves to, and we will get back to your story.
Yeah.
But the Facebook or whatever it is has made it where you can put it on display to the world and like, look, this is who I am. But like, you're that person for however long you're on your phone, but you're not really that person.
Right.
You're just because you take a photo and
we're basically creating avatars.
Right, we are, and we don't. I don't know if we even realize it.
Right.
And then we go into fight or flight mode if we don't have our phone or whatever it is. But yeah,
It's funny you mentioned Eckhart Tolle. I love him. He has 2 great books: The Power of Now,
New Earth.
and New.
I haven't read the second one.
Yeah, they're both great. And he even reads the books. He has audiobooks of them.
Yeah.
I love his voice because he has that great German accent. But I actually got the idea for my PsyAtlanta integration circles from another meetup in Atlanta, an Eckhart Tolle meetup.
Oh yeah.
And they have their own little circle, monthly circle that they listen to a snip of Eckhart Tolle, and then they discuss, and all sorts of stuff come out. And so it was a pretty great inspiration for me.
And I applaud you, by the way, for starting this integration circle, because it wasn't something that was there before, and you had to be a brave person to do it. You had to take on that leadership role, and I'm not sure if you're comfortable with that role, or I'm not.
At the beginning, so it's only been integration circles for about a year and a year and a half now, I guess. But before that, it was meetings over food. We'd meet at a restaurant, or we'd have a presenter get up and talk, and those were great, and people loved that stuff. But it was just so hard for me to organize a new speaker every month. And then I just realized this is what people really want, is just to connect with each other, and I can set that up so easily with a monthly integration circle, and that's where this came about. And at the beginning, I was definitely a little more paranoid's a strong word, but I was in that direction, trying to be very careful. And I created the group with 4 oaths that you have to agree to before you join.
You want to say them?
So the first oath is that you will hold safe space for everybody else in the group to talk about their experiences. The second one is that you're not going to try to convince somebody whether or not to use psychedelics. It's a strictly personal choice. Third one is, actually that might be the third one. The second one is that, the third one is that you're going to abide by all applicable laws, because a lot of time, because this is not a drug marketplace, specifically says that this is not a drug marketplace, because I don't want this to be people coming and looking for, looking to make purchases. That's not what this is about. And so, and also it legitimizes the group and makes it a safer place for people to come share. And then the fourth oath is to use your real identity in the group and online, because we don't have anything to hide. There's no reason to hide behind fake identities. We need to be out. We need to be out of the closet with our psychedelics, because this needs to be something that our society accepts. And if we're hiding, who's going to accept that?
Right. Yeah, if you're like trying to do it behind closed doors or whatever it is.
And the more I've done it, the more courageous I've gotten with it. And I think that the more we own this movement, the more powerful it's going to get, and the more people are going to see the power that this has to completely transform our society.
Yeah, and it's people voluntarily choosing to do it because they're so sick of whatever is going on. They're like, I'm willing to do this now. I've never been willing to do psychedelics before, but I'm willing to try this and see what happens. With guidance. Right. I think that's very important.
Set and setting.
Yeah. That's what I help create is a healthy set and setting. The set is the place you are, or the mindset rather. So you need to be in a good mindset, and I make sure that my clients are in a healthy frame of mind when they start. And then the setting is where you are. Is it safe? Is it comfortable? Is it protected? Is it private? And so that's, if you have both of those things, set and setting, that's Timothy Leary's thing, by the way. He created that idea of set and setting. And
who's Timothy?
He's a famous psychedelic advocate from the 60s.
Okay.
He was a big proponent of LSD and that sort of thing, and
Gotcha.
very outspoken. But when you have those two conditions, you have a much, much higher chance of having a successful, healing, safe experience with psychedelics.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have to have some intention. You can just say, show me whatever I need to see right now.
Mm-hmm.
It can be that simple, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I no, intention wasn't part of that. But I usually do try to set an intention before I start. But I almost always find that whatever intention I set, it's like only a minor part of the experience, and there's some other big thing that I needed to know that I didn't know I needed to know that comes up.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can really appreciate what you're doing here. I'm not into the whole psychedelics or mushrooms or anything like that. I have nothing against it.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the way that you're going across it. You're being safe. You're being responsible, and I think you're not hurting anyone. No one's getting hurt here, and you believe in this. You truly do, and I applaud you for that. I applaud you for doing it in a safe manner, and you just want to help as many people as you can. And this is awesome.
Thanks,
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
At the end of the day, this helps people get, hopefully, to where they want to go with their life. Like I said, it's not me. That's I don't know if the cat is coming through on this, but he's real sad he can't be in here. We're about to close this episode down, but like, if you had to give, one thing for everyone listening in terms of their life and their journey and how they're going to get to where they're going to go, and like if they're clouded with their worries or doubts or whatever it is, what could you say to them that could help them right now?
I think the most important thing that I've learned in my life is to own it. Whatever you're doing, own it. Stand behind your decision, and don't let anybody else make that decision for you. Don't let anybody else tell you that your decision was not the right decision. Whatever your gut says was right, if you follow that and you trust that intuition and you stand behind it and you own it, you're protected in whatever decision you make.
And it's coming from your heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okey pokey. Do y'all want, I guess you already plugged kind of Live in the Wild,
Yeah,
PsyAtlanta.
we'll put all those links.
If people want to get in touch with PsyAtlanta, how do you?
So there's PsyAtlanta.org, which is PSYAtlanta.org. And we usually meet near the middle of Atlanta, usually at the Ponce Library. They have a meeting room there. And for Alive in the Wild, you can go to aliveinthewild.me, M-E. So ALIVEINTHEWILD.ME.
We'll put it.
Put all that stuff in there.
We'll type it out. Cool, man.
You can tell I used to be into spelling bees.
This has been fun. All right.
Wait, before we go, Trey, though, there's one thing. I wasn't here last time, so I wasn't able to ask you.
No,
there's one thing.
It's always them, not me.
Yeah, but I like to kick it or end it with you saying if there's one takeaway from this episode, what would it be?
Be yourself. Don't let anybody tell you to be. You know who you are. Be brave, be courageous, tell yourself who you are, know who you are, and live that truth that's in your heart, because there's something in us that we want to live, and we need to start living it. Okey pokey.
Sounds good.
Toodles for now.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, John.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you for coming on.